No noise, no noise. It means as long as I'm protected, I'm okay. I'm fine. The armed robbers are going around the street, but you wait. I'm going to do something about my protection. As long as I'm fine, let anything that wants to happen, happen. So the evil and the spread of that evil called armed robbery is thanks to me who just put that fence. I am the one giving the license to the armed robbers. I am a culprit together with armed robbers. Oh, what can I do? I cannot do anything. I'm just one person. I'm just one person. I just have to defend myself. I'm just one person. There's nothing I can do. Oh, wow. You think so? Well, I'm just one person too. But you wait till I get to Nigeria and I'm going to fix the problem of armed robbery. And it will be interesting for you to see how I'm going to fix it. And if you are not, if you cannot wait, you know, write my name in Google, in YouTube, and say, Sunday Adelaja, how I'm going to fix the problem of crime or armed robbers. You just put something like that, and my video will come out where I put my strategies on how I'm going to solve the problem. Oh, but that's you. You are popular. Well, at least you can speak. You can join a team. You can partner together with somebody. You can. Every armed robbery that we complain about in Nigeria today. Oh, I cannot go back to Africa because of armed robbery. You think it's the government to blame for it? You think the armed robbers are to blame for it? Want to hear the truth? Every one of you that has ever heard of armed robbers and armed robbery and have just built your own fence or put your own security or ran away and into hiding without challenging it, without thinking or finding, doing something about it, you are a culprit. You know what you've just done? The same thing that Martin Niemöller has done. And what did he do? Well, I was not a socialist. I'm not being attacked yet. The most important thing is that I'm not attacked yet. And the most important thing that I'm protected. I just have to protect it. So every elite in my country are responsible. Where is... Okay, don't worry. I have a book about this. The role of the elite in national development. I'm not writing it. I'm still writing it. It's still in the process of writing. I'm writing a book on this. How the elite are responsible for all the evils that happen in Nigeria. And not just the elite. How all Nigerians are responsible for all the evil. And whenever I talk about Nigeria all the time, I'm not meaning just Nigeria. I'm meaning any society. But I cannot be mentioning 10 countries or 2 countries at the same time. So I'm starting with one. The one I have a burden for. The reason why corruption. Have you ever heard of corruption in Nigeria? Tell me what you are doing against it. If you are not doing anything against it, don't ever complain. You want to complain? Complain with a strategy. Come up with a strategy. You want to complain? Do something about it. Plan or gather your strength. Don't just complain.
Вау! Розважайся та фіксуй найкращі моменти на суперкамеру крутого смартфону. Купуй Валло потужний Sony Xperia X Dual з камерою 23 мегапікселі за суперціною Валло та на Allo.ua.
You heard of lack of leadership and all kind of political crisis in Africa? As long as you just talk about it and you don't do anything, you're a culprit. Do you write about it at least? Do you form a group? Do you contribute? The evil of silence is so subtle that you will even think, oh, it doesn't pertain to you, it pertains to all other people. I have stopped blaming the government. And anybody that you see blame the government in Nigeria, is a culprit. So this is the lesson that we're learning from the life of Martin Niemöller. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out. Because they are not going to touch me because I'm not a socialist. I'm okay, I'm safe. My children are okay. You are a selfish, egocentric person, and you will pay for it sooner or later. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out. Why? I am not a trade unionist. There is no danger for me. Still rooted in egocentrism. There is no danger for me there. No danger for me in that situation. No danger for me in this situation. As long as I am safe, I'm fine. You are not fine, and you are not going to be fine. You are evil, and the evil is going to catch up with you. And I'm going to tell you the story of what happened to Martin Niemöller and how the evil caught up with him later. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak. Why is it not speaking? To defend the Jews. Because if I speak, they will come for me, they will take me, I will lose my privileges. It's all about self-preservation. When they came for the Jews, I did not speak out. Why? Because I was not a Jew. And as long as it's about self-preservation, it's selfishness, egocentrism. So since I'm keeping quiet, since I am I'm not talking about the Jews, they are not going to touch me. But it's a lie. Whenever you compromise with evil, you will pay a higher price. Then you know what happened? Then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak for me. What he'd sowed, he reaped. You didn't speak out for righteousness, you will suffer for that iniquity. You know, before, they only used to kidnap foreigners in my country. And when they kidnap foreigners, you know what Nigerians used to say? These boys, I don't even know, we don't even know what to do. These boys, only God can help. Other people will say, these boys, it's hunger, it is poverty, it is poverty. You know what happens now? Then they started kidnapping well-to-do Nigerians. The other people are saying, okay, maybe we have to get security. Police will be defending us. So Nigerians who had money began to put police in their cars. It's about my protection, not about building a system to protect everybody. Egocentrism and selfishness. So they started kidnapping, they started killing the police and kidnapping them still. Then they started kidnapping the government officials who didn't do anything, even though they were in the government. They thought it would never touch them, but you can never compromise with evil. Anytime you are silent about evil, remember one thing. That your silence will come to hurt you. It will come to haunt you. That silence, you will come to pay for it sooner or later. Never be silent about evil. That your silence means you have just put a cobra under your bed sheet. That cobra is going to sting you. For example, there is another evil in my country right now. It's called jungle justice. We have a parliament. They are not even considering enacting a law against jungle justice because, why should they even go and steal silver? You know what has started to happen now? It is innocent, successful, middle-class Nigerians that are now being lynched because they are mistaken for an evildoer. Soon, it will get to children of governors, children of politicians who have refused to enact a law. Silence will come after you. Evil doesn't stop because you are silent. And evil doesn't pity you because you didn't talk. Evil doesn't stop because you didn't touch it. Evil doesn't, Satan will not say because you didn't touch me, I will not touch you. Evil doesn't stop from touching, it doesn't stop touching you because you didn't touch it. Evil will come after. There is only one response that could be to evil, which is to stand up to it. To stand up to it. Use good to overcome evil. You've got to resist the enemy, and the enemy will flee from you. But you don't just resist it for yourself. You resist it for others and in any form that is being manifested. So let me tell you the thing that began to happen in the life of Martin Niemöller.
Зимняя легковая шина Nokian Nordman RS. Высокая износостойкость и экономичность. Змеевидные края плечевых блоков увеличивают устойчивость. Зубчатые ламели усиливают торможение. Отличное сцепление при разгоне. Направленный ламелизированный рисунок протектора. Покупайте шины Nokian Nordman RS в интернет-магазине Резина ЦЦ.
Let me tell you a story. Okay? What happened was, could you come? Let me use you as an example of Niemöller. So let's say this is Pastor Martin Niemöller. When all those things were happening, Hitler was arresting people, killing them and everything. Niemöller was one of the most prominent pastors, theologian, and church leaders in Germany. But he thought about it and said, but I see what Hitler is doing. He's not really touching Christians. It's only touching the Jews. It's only fighting against the socialists. It's only attacking the trade unionists. But we Christians, it's not touching us. So what should we do? Why should we go and disturb? Listen, are you from Nigeria? Are you saying the, whatever they call them, cattlemen or henchmen are not touching my people? I'm a Yoruba man. The henchmen are not touching Yoruba people, let's say, just for example. They are only touching Benue people, or they are only touching Jos people. They are not getting to my area. So, let me leave these headsmen alone. They are not touching me. Why should I touch them? Okay? You are just in the position of Martin Niemöller. That's why I call this message, please don't repeat the mistake of Martin Niemöller. Or maybe you said, for example, there was a situation in Nigeria recently where the government wanted to tax the churches, I think, or they wanted to put an age limit for the bishops and GOs that they have to, surrender the church at a certain age, and they must not put their children and relatives. And you know what happened? In a matter of a few days, that law was reversed. You know why? Because all the bishops, all the big men, they raised their voice and they went and protested to the government. In fact, the government, the president had to succumb to their demand that you don't touch it, don't touch the church, don't touch our money, don't touch the church, don't touch our position, don't touch our property. Well, because it touched somebody's interest. It's all about egocentrism. But is that a good decision for the country? No, of course. It's the most demonic, evil decision against the people of Nigeria. And that the fact that they were able to get the government to keep quiet, and we say these are men of God, that is enough a reason for us to think twice. All of us to think twice. Anyway, but now another situation is there. The herdsmen are killing people, and Christians are all complaining. They want to Islamize Nigeria. They want to do this. I said, when they didn't want to Islamize Nigeria, they just wanted to take our budget and our position. They just wanted to limit our excesses. We had enough power at that time to stop it, to stop the government. Now, when it is about some poor people that the herdsmen are killing, we are just talking. We are not acting decisively the way we have acted when they wanted to take our position. Now, another situation is going on in my country. They said they want to make Nigerian Christians study Islamic studies or something like that. I don't have all the information, so I will not say. But I've seen some information that some Christian leaders are doing press conference. You know, it's just propaganda. Even if it is true that they want Christians to study Islamic law or whatever, Islamic studies, these same bishops, these same pastors, these same GOs, they didn't do press conference when they wanted to take their seat or when they wanted to take their money. They didn't do press conference. They knew where they went and they knew the button to press. But now, education. Okay, we'll talk now so that they will not say we're quiet. I'm not, you know, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, this situation, a lot of compromises are going on. And it's the same thing with Martin Niemöller. So when Hitler was reigning, Pastor Martin said, well, you know, it is only against the bad people they are fighting. It is not touching my own personal interest. And anything that is not touching my own personal interest, we can talk. So it is not that Martin Niemöller didn't do anything. No. You know what we did? He went and had a meeting because he was the head of pastoral association, like in Nigeria they call it CAN or PFN. So he was the head of a pastoral group. You know what he did? You know what that guy did? Martin Niemöller, you know what he did? When all those when they were killing Jews, when they were killing trade journalists, when they were killing socialists, when people were disappearing in the night, when millions of Europeans were about to die, 50 million people in Europe died as a result of that law. You know what the Christian pastor did? You know what? He took delegation of pastor Christians like him, and they went to meet Hitler. You can guess. Your guess is as good as mine. So why did he want to meet Hitler? For Hitler to stop killing the Jews? No. At least it's not a danger to me. The killing of Jews, it will not touch me now. So why should I go and talk to Hitler about not killing the Jews? There's no way. I mean, my children are not Jews. My in-laws are not Jews. So maybe you think he went to go and speak to Hitler about the trade unionists so that he will stop arresting the trade unionists? Of course no. Pastors don't have time for those kind of unholy discussions. Pastors only discuss about their own interests because we are no more pastors of God. We are no more God's representative. We are no more concerned about any injustice anywhere. We are no more believers in the fact that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. We are no more concerned about the fact that if you do this to the least of this, you did it for me. We are no more moved by the fact that I am the one who was naked. I was the one who is hungry. I am the one who is suffering. I am the one who is in situation. I am the one that is suffering. I am in the trade unionists. I am in the socialists. I am in the Jews. God is in everybody. Everybody is a creation of God. But pastors of today, they drive their cars, pass by the Muslim children who cannot go to school. But they are Muslim children. Why? But they will collect offering. They will collect tithe and pass by the Muslim children. They will even pass by the Christian children. They will even pass by their own church members who are walking and trekking to go home after church. And they will use their money to send their own children abroad. So, Pastor Martin Niemöller went and met with Hitler. Your guess is as good as mine. What was he talking with Hitler about? Yeah, he decided to make a pact with Hitler, to make a deal. He said, Hitler, we respect your party. And we respect everything you are doing for the German nation. But we want you to promise us and give us your word that you will not touch Protestant churches. So others you can touch. But the Jews are not our brothers now. They are not born again. So if they are not born again, they are going to hell anyway. So let them go. Some of you right here, you are going to churches where pastors are raping members and are making them to do abortion. Some of you are going to churches where pastors are taking money of the poor people and raping old men and women of their money, their last money, and you are saying, but I'm not the one now, they are not touching me. Well, okay, at least. Some of you are going to churches where atrocities are just going to take place on a regular basis. Where they are telling people to come to church every day, 5 times a week, 6 days a week. And you know it is abomination, it is atrocity. But you just say, they want now, that's what they do. It doesn't concern me. Please, for Christ's sake, don't repeat the mistake of Martin Niemöller. Don't repeat the mistake of Martin Niemöller. Please, for Christ's sake. You want to tell me that those Nigerian pastors who are doing press conference about Islamic study in school, you want to tell me that they don't know how to get to the Aso Rock? You want to tell me they don't have contact, they don't have members in the parliament, in the National Assembly? You want to tell me they don't know who to call? You want to tell me that church members are not there? Okay now. Okay. And you are telling me there are churches in Nigeria? Of course, I know there will always be remnants, 7,000 remnants, maybe more. But we don't know them because the ones that we see as church, they have been compromised long time ago. That's just the truth. Me, I'm going to talk. Okay? Because I know things, That's why I got to a place I said, only when people tell me in Nigeria that don't go to church again, or they have a personal relationship with God, that I believe that they are Christians. Because there is no way you could be compromising all these things and say you are walking with the Spirit of God, that you are a believer, and you will say you don't see anything, everything is okay. So, Pastor Nehemiah went to see Hitler, and he went to crack a deal. Don't worry. The agreement was, Hitler said, from my side, from the side of Hitler, is the demand is, you don't need to do anything, just keep quiet. You don't need to kill the Jews. No, you don't need to kill anybody. You don't even need to talk. That's all. When we'll be killing and butchering human beings, the Christians, the Catholics who are opposers, the Jews were butchering them like this. When we'll be butchering the trade unionists, the socialists, butchering like this. You are okay, we are not touching you. So since we are not touching you, what do you say? Okay, that one is a good condition for us. We are okay. We are Germans. We are, as long as we can worship our God. Tell me what? Worship your God. We think that if we have the freedom to go to church, to go and sing, hallelujah, the Almighty reigns, great is our God, that we are worshiping God. That one doesn't remind you of the Good Samaritan, that the priest who passed by the injured man was also going to church to worship. And God said it's not even recognized, it's not even going to heaven at all, even though he was going to church. The Levite who also passed by, God said is not recognized, he's not even going to heaven, even though he was going to church. Your consent of evil has already cancelled your faith. You think you are going to church, but that God is not there. God has already bypassed you. God has already. Why do you even need to go to church to find God? The truth was that God was in that man who was wounded on that ground. That's where God was, not in the church where you are rushing to. So this one, they agreed that you will not touch us, Protestant Christians, so that we might be able to worship our God. They don't know that God didn't even show up in that kind of church. He doesn't even need to show up there. Why? Because they have already denied that God by not standing for the truth. And by not standing for another human being. Even though he's a socialist, even though he's a trade journalist, even though he's a Jew. By you not standing on the side of a human being, another human being, even though you disagree, even though you have different belief systems. Do you know the story we had about Malaysian Christians cooking food to go and feed the Muslims? Killing ram and animals for their festival or whatever, Muslim anniversaries. Sending Muslim children to school, building mosques for them. You know it can never happen in some places in Nigeria. They will say you are backsliding, you are I don't know what they will talk, what they call you. Because we are our God, our faith in God doesn't go to the extent of building mosques for Muslims or sending Muslim children to school. Our own faith in God is already dead long time ago. And we think we are having God, or God is showing up in our church. Okay. As long as you cannot see that same God in a Muslim, you cannot see that same God in your neighbor, and you cannot see that same God even in your own member, and you say you are having God, you are meeting God in the church, they could meet him now. That is why I know long time ago that when Jesus shows up, next Sunday, churches will be jam-packed. And people will be doing church. In fact, Jesus has come Saturday night. And everybody will come to church. Church will be jam-packed and anointing will be there. They will not even know rapture has taken place. The same anointing will be there because we know how to work out our own anointing without God. By God. And those people that have been butchered and murdered, they have the image of God in themselves. And God said, how can you love me that you don't see? And you want to go, how can you love me that you don't see? When you cannot love the human being like you, who are my image here on the earth with you there. God is not there. You do your own church worship in your own church by yourself. because you had already neglected that God by neglecting those socialists. You had already passed by that God by passing back the trade unionists. You have already bypassed that God by bypassing the Jews. You have already bypassing everybody. Good Life Richman said, only Apostle Suleiman is the one who speaks against some of the things. Suleiman, you did deaf. Can you hear what Suleiman says? That you should go and kill them. Is that the way Jesus would have spoken? Is he a murderer? Don't come and quote Suleiman here from you. She said you should go and murder any Islamist, any Muslim that will come to the church. Said, so this guy just said, well, you know, so they made a deal. They made a deal with the devil. Because Hitler is the devil himself. So they made a deal that they would not touch. So he gave them his word. I will not touch you. You also don't talk. Don't touch us. Don't. So I'm going to be doing my killing people as I want. But you just be worshiping your God. At least it's 50-50, win-win. You are worshiping your God while I'm killing his people here. And the guy is kept quiet. Then, let me tell you another thing also. Martin Niemöller was a very smart man. You know, most of those are pastors, our fathers, they are smart. Oh. Only a lot are smart for their own interest. Like Martin Niemöller also, he was smart. But he was smart for his own interest also. So he had a second request. For Hitler, that is. So the first one is that leave us Protestants and give us freedom to worship. That one said, okay, just don't, don't talk. Okay, that is a good deal. Then the second condition was he said, don't do pogrom. Don't do pogrom. That is like, don't do massive massacre, what do you call it? Massacre, genocide of the Jews. So you just keep them one by one. Only kill them one by one, or don't do massive one. No, it didn't say kill them one by one, but the agreement is that don't make it massacre. So if you say don't make it pogrom, don't make massacre, it means you can kill them one by one, or you can kill them in small groups. Maybe that was I'm just altering, what do you call it? Exaggerating it. But that's what it said. The agreement was don't make it a pogrom, don't make it a big something. That one said, no problem. In Germany, no. You think we're as bad as that? No, a pogrom will never happen now. So you know what the guy did? Hitler. So he went and said, okay, don't let us do this thing in Germany. He went and built concentration camps, and packed all of them in centers, not in Germany, in the street, pogrom in the street, massacre in the street, but they built concentration camps all over Europe. And he was sending them there and gassing them, killing them just like experiment. Because of the silence of men of God. So by the words of Martin Niemöller, you know what he said? He said, Hitler's assurance satisfied me at the time. Satisfied him. But later on, after they came for him, you know what the Lamb said? He said, yes, it's true. We agreed like that. But the agreement, the assurance the man gave me, but what kind of assurance that you will be saved? Your church will be saved, your family will be saved, even though other people are being killed. What kind of assurance? There is no assurance. So. But later on, he said, the mistake, that I am paying for it now. Because after I started paying for it. I'm going to give you many other lessons that we could learn from this man. I'm sorry, guys. What happened is that this guy is not this guy is not hearing anything I said. This Apostle Suleiman disciple is writing and saying that's not what he said. That's not what he said. I make you hear yourself. So I'm going to YouTube now to find what he said. Okay? I hope you are still there. Is this your apostle? I hope he's not the one.
Are you the one they're after? It's me. I said, okay. And I told my people, I said, any Fulani man you see around you, kill him. Yesterday she was talking, I just kept quiet because you know women, there are things you don't tell them. And I've told them in the church here, around these premises, there any Fulani man that just entered by mistake, I want to protect. Kill him. Kill him. Cut his head. If they are busy killing Christians and nothing is happening, we will kill them and nothing will happen. I said I'm not going to talk this year, so let me not talk. Am I talking to somebody here?
He's not going to talk.
Why are you saying they should kill somebody?
He's not going to talk. Where is that guy? Let me look for the guy here. Where is the guy with his defensive ministry? His ministry of defense of Apostle Suleiman. Where is the guy, Seth? Let me find him. Is he still here? I want to come and see your face now. Maybe it's not the one, no. Maybe it is El Rufai who is speaking, not Apostle Suleiman who is speaking. It is either El Rufai or some government DCC or DDC or intelligence that is speaking in his behalf, using his voice. How can you defend something that is indefensible? What's wrong with you people, Nigerians? You don't get head at all? And he's now saying, oh no, Pastor, I'm not a disciple, sir. Nigeria. Okay, thank God you are not his. Okay, we believe you, we forgive you. Thank God you are not his disciple. At least that is okay. That's okay. Because I don't like people arguing with me out of ignorance. Okay? I don't like people arguing out of ignorance. So if you don't know, say you don't know. Or if you are not sure, say I'm not sure. But to now be telling me, no, that's not what he said. Make you hear enough with your own kolo eye and your own kolo ear. You don't say that. They didn't say it. They didn't. This one came from somewhere. From the spirit. Let me go back to... Please don't repeat the mistake of Martin Nemila. Don't repeat the same mistake of Martin Nemila, okay? So, of course, you know what happened. Let me give you other principles here. Okay, you said you don't even watch him, but you are quoting to me what he has said, that I'm the one who got him wrong. Because all you Christians in Nigeria, anything that a Christian says, you just open your ear and just believe it. And you just think everybody is against your pastor, everybody is against Christians, and because of that you defend the indefendable. Okay, he has already repented. Thank you, God Life. He said, okay, Pastor, sorry, sir. Thank God, at least that's a good act. He has already, thank you, sir, he said. Oh, good. Okay, well, let's forget about it. Let's move on. At least he got the message. Because me, I'm not going to leave it like that just for you to rub my eye, finish, and just disappear. No, me, I'm not a kid. Not the yesterday I born, or what they could say in Nigeria. So anyway, let's go back to our something. So later on, Pastor Nemila repented. But you know why he repented? In a prison. In a prison, it is after they came for him that the repentance came also for him. So, Pastor Nemila, that was when Pastor Nemila repented and said this was. First, they came for the socialists, and that's a repentant heart. You could see his repentance here. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. There was no one left to speak for me. So when he had now been imprisoned, that was after I came out of prison, and he started a crusade against Hitler. No, before the crusade again, because you think that, let me tell you here the lessons. Let me tell you here some lessons here. Please write these things down. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. Let me tell you some lessons here. Number one lesson. Anything you compromise to get, you will need to keep on compromising to keep. Write that down. Maybe somebody will be writing it on the comment. Anything you compromise to get, you will have to keep on compromising to keep. So if you see evil and you kept quiet, like what this man did now, this Suleiman guy. Okay, I'm not condemning. I didn't even speak against him. But how could I be defending that? There's no way I'm going to defend it. Because it's not even Christian. Even though I didn't make a statement about it, I didn't do anything. But, I know it's evil. And I'm going to stand for the truth and say that what he did is evil. What he's standing for is evil. And anybody that is following him is compromising with evil. I know he said he has 1 million people or 500,000 people. For me, they are not people anymore. They are human beings, but they are not personalities. They are not people of God. People are just worshiping anything they want to worship, but they don't know God at all. There is no way you will know God and you'll be following somebody who is behaving like this. But it's not only this guy. It's not only the apostle. A lot of things like this happen in Nigerian churches every day. So the Nigerian Christians have just been compromised totally, and we are not even aware of it. For me, even if he has 100 million, for me, he doesn't have anything. Because those people are not human. They are not people. They are not personality. They are not recognized in heaven. Why should I recognize? Why? Yeah, if people don't recognize God's standard, God doesn't recognize them. Then somebody tell me, but he's doing a lot of miracles. Okay. Come to my village, I will show you miracle. Miracle that will run people like him out of town. Miracle. As if that is a standard. The word of God is a standard, though. So anything, these Nigerian pastors that are seeing this evil happening in the churches, all these Nigerian pastors that are, keeping quiet, that are saying, the Nigerian Christians that are keeping quiet, that are saying, well, it's a man of God, don't touch the man of God, touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm, don't say anything, no, I just keep quiet, oh. All people who compromise, see evil, things go wrong, and keep quiet, they will remain in that slavery for long, because you have to keep on compromising. You have to keep on compromising to keep that thing that you say you got. Number 2, anything you compromised to get, even though you are compromising, okay, even though you keep on compromising, right? And you say everything will remain stable, everything will remain okay. Since the thing is wrong, since the thing is not in line with God, you said, I will just keep quiet. As long as I keep quiet, nothing will happen. Now you think so? Anything you compromise to gain, first of all, you have to keep on compromising. And the compromising will be getting worse. That's the first one. The second thing is that anything you compromise to get, you will. Either you like it or not, or you keep on compromising, or you don't keep on compromising, you will eventually lose. Ask Martin Niemöller. The promise that Hitler gave him, you think he kept it? Making a pact with Satan. Of course, he lost the protection that he was promised. They came for him too. Number 3. So if people go to Nigerian churches and they compromise the truth, just under the guise that, don't touch my anointed, they will lose that anointed. They will lose their own lives. They will lose anything, any comfort that is. Oh, somebody said, man, I'm just going to serve God. I like the praise and worship there. I like this one there. Make you keep on compromising to keep now. You will lose it. That's number 2. Anything you have compromised to get, you have to compromise to keep. And then you have to lose. You will even lose it after that. Oh, but it doesn't concern me. It's their own problem. Let them anything. Okay. That's exactly what we're saying. Martin Niemöller also said it doesn't concern him, but they came for him eventually. Number 3, anything you compromise to get, you will end up paying a higher price for. The price you would have paid initially will be nothing compared to the price that you have to pay later on. Because the price that he was supposed to pay, Martin Niemöller, was that they were going to say, leave the country. Hitler was going to tell him, if you don't agree with us, leave the country. He didn't want to leave the country. Yes, he didn't leave the country, but you know where he ended up? In that same consecration camp that they were using to kill the Jews and the trade unionists and the socialists. The same place. He would have been living in another country free, but now he had to be not just in prison, but in concentration. You have to. So anything you compromise to get, you will end up paying a higher price for. Even though after you have lost it, you will still pay a higher price. So compromising against the truth is only the work of a fool. It's not a good thing to do at all. So I urge every Nigerian Christian that's here, every Christian all over the world that is here, all the evil they are showing on those televisions, raise your voice. Raise your voice. Speak out loud. Expose the works of evil. And let God be on your side rather than man. Next point. Never close your eyes at evil. Any form of evil, never close your eyes. And never turn your eyes to look the other side. Never ever close your eyes at evil. Thinking or turn your head. God Life says, sir, what makes me bleed inside is that even the good, genuine pastors that we revere are also, doing evil things. Yeah, that's why I say there is no church in Nigeria, or as far as I'm concerned. Even though I know there are remnants, but make you find God. Find God. Make your pastor not be your path to God. There is no mediator between man and God again. There is no more mediator between man and God. The only mediator is Christ. Build personal relationship with Christ. That's all. Never close your eyes or turn your eyes at evil. Away from evil, that is. Away from evil. Thinking it will go away. Evil doesn't go away automatically. The Bible says resist the evil, the devil. Resist evil. Resist the devil and it will flee from you. Thinking it will go away. It doesn't go away. Instead of evil to go away, it grows. It multiplies. Especially when you turn your head from it or when you turn your eyes from it, it only grows and multiplies. It doesn't go away. By the time you open your eyes, it has taken and overtaken everywhere. It is being multiplied. Next point. Never you neglect any form of injustice. Never you disregard, neglect any form of injustice. If any form of injustice is going on anywhere, make sure you do something. Talk to somebody about it. Write something. Say something. Raise an alarm. Do something. Never neglect any form of injustice towards others. Always be on the side of justice. Always be on the side of the truth. Always be on the side of people who stand for what is right. If you choose to be on this, if you choose to neglect injustice, that injustice will touch you one day. Either you like it or you don't like it, that injustice will get to your address because you have neglected it. The fact that you neglect it doesn't mean it will never come to you. Same with armed robbers. Same with inflation. Same with politics. Same with Islamic invasion or whatever, what do they call the herdsmen. Anything, any injustice that you neglect will come to touch you later on. Next point. Remember this. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. That's Martin Luther King who said that. Next point. Never sit at the table of negotiation with evil. It will end up biting you severely. It will end up biting you severely. Never sit at the table of negotiation with evil. It will end up biting you severely. Please, let us all go ahead and share this message. Let us all go ahead and share this message, please. And let us learn from the lesson of Martin Niemöller. Let me finish this message by his famous words and quotation for which he's known for. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Thank you. Anybody want to say anything? Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone on the platform. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Wherever you're watching from, today has been so amazing.
Talk.
On my part, on Friday, I will come up addressing the issues.
Thursday, you said.
No, Friday by 4 o'clock Kyiv time. I want to paint a picture that we don't have any church in Nigeria. I have traveled. I have seen how churches how they are organizing church in Europe. So, and what really broke me was when I was working in Kyiv here, where I was teaching children English in Ginagati. I just saw that we don't even have any love in churches in Nigeria. So we cannot afford to keep silence on the injustice that are perpetrated on our people. Do you know what it is? Even our educational system, many of the pastors that you have in Nigeria, their children are schooling in Europe. We school together. None of them will raise their voice. So I have taken upon myself to address some issues. By tomorrow, I will be coming up live to do a podcast and to tell everybody, every youth, not to take their tithes to any church, even offering, that those money should be taken to all the less privileged and widows who are looking for assistance to even start a business for themselves. Because if we take the tithes to churches, they will keep on building the building.
You go talk on Friday now, but this one that I just preached about. Any comment? If there is no comment, make I continue.
Thank you, doctor, for that. Anytime that we keep quiet about injustice, the injustice will come back to bite us. One of the lessons that I really is a take home for me today is that any injustice that we condone and we refuse to speak against, it will come back to hurt us, and it will come back to hurt our family. It will come back to hurt our friends. It will come back to hurt the society and the nation. So that is why every one of us, because of this message, anybody on the platform, you cannot afford to keep quiet, because we have seen the lesson that Martin Nemila. We have seen the result of keeping quiet. We cannot afford to keep quiet. And another point that I noted that because of ourselves, we want to speak for ourselves. Inasmuch as I am secure, inasmuch that it is not for my family, it is not against my family, I don't want to speak out. But that is not what is obtainable. Life was not given to us for us to survive, but our life was given to us to die, even at the point of speaking out for the people that have been oppressed. So every one of us, you have seen injustice anywhere. Let's raise our voice and speak against every injustice. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. While I was just listening to the quote by Martin Nemila, I was just thinking that it's so right in so many ways. That is it possibly that the suffering and challenges that we are experiencing now was due to what our parents and grandparents and
Are silent about.
yes, the evil that men do lives after them. And if we don't stop and start speaking out now, we're actually leaving this legacy for our children also to suffer. So if you truly love your children, you love your family, don't think just about today and about the peace that you think that you're experiencing right now by not speaking out. Think about the rewards, the pain of tomorrow, not just of your short-term peace. Because I really believe from those quotes, it will come back to us. Everything that we sow will come back to us. And it is a seed to keep quiet. Even though you're keeping quiet, you're thinking you're not doing anything. It is a seed. Think back at so many other things that have happened in your life or in other people's life. And you would see, if you can be honest with yourself, you would see that these have been things that you should have resolved at a time and later is now affecting you. You didn't resolve it because it's not your problem at the time, it's not affecting you. We all do it. I'm not even an exception to this. I might say that I say the truth, but I don't always say the truth, only sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, but only sometimes. But this pertains to everything. Even some simple things like if somebody does something bad to a friend or family, because it's not you that they're doing it to directly, you just say, well, I'm not going to say anything. It's none of my business, so that you can keep peace. You don't even have to get involved with the person and say something. It's not about the person alone. It's about the wrongdoing that they're doing. And you just say, I'm not going to say anything. But when they do it to you, then you want everybody else to say something. So it starts from that. It starts from simple things. With your colleague at work, somebody does something bad, and you just keep quiet and say, well, it's not me. I'm not going to say anything. It's not my salary. It's not my desk. It's not anything. You just keep your mouth shut about it. But when it happens to you, you want everybody else to say something, and you feel like it is wrong. If we had said something, or we had we had a stand on issues, those issues would have been curbed. But the things that we kept quiet about, they grew and they expanded and they became worse. And I really do believe that that quote is not just for that time and what happened with Hitler. It's about everything about our lives. And if we search ourselves and we search our souls, we would see that this applies to everything. As little as just seeing a child do something wrong and you just keep quiet for one reason or the other that you can use to justify it. In church, you keep quiet about what your pastor is doing. You keep quiet because somebody is a pastor or somebody is a leader somewhere, or you don't want to say anything against them. It's all deception to yourself, not just deception to society. It is to yourself. And if you continue to deceive yourself, you become less of a human being. You're no longer a human being by deceiving yourself. So really, we need to come back to being human being. Don't turn a blind eye. Don't say things or that you don't know just because you love somebody or because you care about somebody. Like somebody defending a leader or defending a pastor just because they're a pastor. Those things are all part of this. Until it comes to you and they do this to you, shouldn't be the time that you rise and speak. Don't wait for anything to happen to you. If it happens to you and you speak, in fact, when it happens to you, let somebody else speak for you. But when it's happening for somebody, you speak for that person. So if you go with that rule, that in my case, when it's happening, I don't want to say anything. I'm not even going to defend myself. This is where you should apply your religiosity of God will defend me when it happens to you. But when it happens to somebody, that's when you should speak more. Because when you speak, you stand up for it. Then other people will stand up for you. Or even if they don't stand up for you, you end up curbing that thing for the future. Speak. I already told you a story. If somebody didn't tell me off, it even applies to when you're raising children. If you don't say anything, pastors told us a story as well. If you don't say anything when a child does something small and you keep it, you don't say anything, that thing grows. It will be something else and it will be something more and then something more later. Speak, please. So I just want to just say this, that it applies to everything. Don't just think about the big scale events like what happened with the Holocaust, but think about every single thing that you do. Defending people, defending pastor just because they're your pastor and the pastor is nice to you, saying that, oh, he's a nice person just because he's nice to you. If he's nice to you and he's not nice to everybody else, then he's not a nice person. If he favors you in one way and he doesn't favor other people, then he's not a nice person. If he's going to favor you, then he should favor everybody if they're doing the right thing. It's all about truth. It's always absolute. Somebody is not just nice at one thing and the other things they're not nice. Or they're nice to people that are well-to-do, or people that are rich, or people that are serving them in the church. But the people that are not doing anything, they just dismiss them and they talk bad about them. So please look at this on every level, not just on the level of leadership alone, of everything that you do. That's all I just want to share.
Hi, everyone. There are so many things that I'm thinking about, and I really need to ponder upon this message because it is so deep, and there are just a lot of thoughts in my mind. But there's one thing that I would like to share that really struck me while I was pondering upon this message, which is there's a really false sense of security in thinking or in keeping silent or staying silent about something. We really think that we are protecting ourselves and that it's about us and that we're going to be well off. But at the end of the day, really, it fires back to us and it shows us, if we really open our eyes, that we're not even loving ourselves, because on one hand, it is a sign for the fact that we don't love other people because we're very egocentric. But because the silent fires back to us, it really shows that we don't even love ourselves, ourselves enough to speak up. So I just want to really encourage all of us to listen to this again and again, because there's so many lessons that we can derive out of this message, because it's not just about, it's about all of us. We're all in this together. We can't separate ourselves from other people by keeping silent, because we're all in it together. So really, I'm just really, really taken aback by this, because it shows me how much responsibility we have and how little we have done based on the responsibility that we've been given by God. And really, so let us not keep silent in anything. Because if we really speak out, we show God that we actually appreciate who He made. We appreciate ourselves as well when we don't keep silent. So that's one of the thoughts I wanted to share.
If you have not yet joined, the movement against deception in the church, you see the link that is there now, that is pinned. That is how you get to the form, and you can go ahead and fill out the form. And when you fill the form, you will get some information from us. So go and register and go and look for the movement on Facebook. It's called Movement Against Deception in the Church. And look for it as well in a group. So it's both a page and a group. Let's begin to become human. Let's begin to stand for what is right. And you know what? God is always on the side of the truth. One man on the side of the truth is a majority. God bless you. And go, if you are coming for the first time, go and listen to the other previous editions that I did. Today is, this is actually the second week that I've been talking about this. So, go look for it on YouTube and on this page, the video section. Go and listen to all of it, and let us become the kind of person that God wants us to become. God bless. We'll come back tomorrow, twice a day, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. UK time, 12 noon and 2 p.m. Eastern time in America. And God bless. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, good evening. Hello, Rochelle White. How are you? Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, Rochelle. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Sunday is coming, Rochelle, so I just let you know. And everyone else that is here. Hello, Omonike. Good evening. Innocent, good evening. Guys, Dr. Sunday is here. He's just been ending a meeting right now, so he will be with us shortly. Favor, good evening. Hello, Dee. How are you? How are you, Maria? How are you doing? Gloria, how are you? Good evening. Good evening, Kimani. How are you? Dr. Sunday will be here. Ola Martin, it's been a while. Good evening. Annie Chukwe, good evening. Anu, good evening. How are you? Dr. Sunday will be here any minute from now. Eric, good evening. He's just ending a meeting. He's in the other room. Jane, good evening. Patrick, good evening. How are you all? Benga, good evening. Guys, start sharing. So let's prepare. So when Dr. Sunday just come, we just get started straight away. Dee, good evening again. Pastor Edwin, how are you? Gloria, how are you again? Anastasia, how are you? Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. This is the second time this evening, and I'm really impressed with some of the names I'm saying that they're coming back. So thank you again, and please let's start share, please. Hola, good evening. That's Ola Martin. For me, good evening. Daniel, how are you? Justine, how are you? Good evening. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Good evening, Julius. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please start sharing. Today's title is Unbelievable Again. Yesterday was like mind-numbing for me for a while, but then I woke up. So we're starting another day today with another title from the series, The Plague of Silence. Dr. Sunday is here. Okay. Hello, Dr. Sunday has just informed me. He, as you can see him, you know that he's here right now. So for those of you, you can see that he's here already. He's still continuing his meeting, and he's asked me to ask you guys to share your testimony of what you heard yesterday. So if there's, right, okay, the people around here will share the testimonies of what they heard yesterday. OMG, okay, I got that wrong. It's actually, you can share your testimony as well, but it's actually us to share the testimonies of what we heard yesterday. So he's still coming, and before he finished with the meeting, he wants us to share the testimonies of what we heard yesterday. Well, yesterday for me, right, I was really sober, and I was sober for so many reasons, because number one, right, I haven't heard this guy's name. I didn't know his name, but recently I actually read the poem. I've read it in the past, but I was actually in a Holocaust museum in Israel late last year, and I was in an atmosphere, you know, the Holocaust museum in Israel is really terrible when you go in there. It's well designed and everything, but they make everything looks really alive. And just staying there and then seeing this poem and the way it was read out, and you know, you can stand and also read it, or sit down and read it. So I read this poem and I thought about it for about 10 minutes. But unfortunately, I didn't actually memorize the name of the writer. I just switch off as soon as I see a foreign name. I just switch off. So when Dr. Sunday put the title on there, I didn't actually realize that it was this man and this poem that I read until when we started the broadcast, and I went into Google and I checked, just like most people. So the title of The Plague of Silence alone for me, you know, over the last few weeks, 2 weeks now, it's just been something that has got me really thinking about life, my life, and actually the negativity about silence, about, you know, being, for me, I think silence now, following this broadcast over the last few weeks, I realized that silence is actually a negative thing rather than a positive thing. And one of the things that Julie shared as well, which I'm sure she's going to share again, is that we all keep quiet, thinking that we're doing ourselves a favor at that point, and at the moment, I'm keeping out of trouble. But what we're actually doing is sowing the seed of a bigger problem to grow later. So that realization for me as well yesterday was really devastating. Usually I don't keep quiet, but I have been conditioned to keep quiet over the last maybe 10, 15 years of my life. I don't think it's in my nature to keep quiet. I always want to talk about things, especially injustice. But at some point with religion and churches, it just got me quiet. It's like, you know, a lady, you have to be a certain way. I know I've shared that with many people already on this platform, but I'm just going to share it again. So religion and being in a church setting, they just want to keep your mouth shut. They want you to just listen and do whatever the pastor says and whatever everybody else says. My parents, I know I came from an African parents. My parents were not like that with me. But where I got my own part of this keeping you quiet and keeping you silent is in the church. It's not in my parents' home, because my parents' home allowed me to speak. I am the youngest, and being the youngest, you pretty much can do whatever you want. It's like a free. You have a free pass. Your parents are a bit older, so they don't actually do anything to stop you. They're more experienced. So I didn't get all the mouth keeping quiet at home. I got the keeping quiet in the church setting, with the pastor saying, gently kind of manipulating and gently kind of suppressing what you should say, what you shouldn't say, and sending the female elderly in the church and saying that I'm still a baby Christian, I don't understand, I'm not right, I'm very westernized, I'm very British, I should be this way. So just hearing that yesterday, I've passed the stage of anger. I've just come to a stage where now I'm getting really numb. If you're going through stages of grief, I think there are different stages, and I've been through different stages since being here with Dr. Sunday and being in this house especially. I think I went through some stages when I was in London and listening to him as you are now, but I got into a different stage or different sets of stages from the time that I came here in January. So hearing that yesterday and the poem and what the guy was saying, I can't actually remember exactly the words, the individual words in the poem, but it was that I was not a socialist. They came for the socialist, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't say anything. And that's it. That's our lives. That's it doesn't have to be being a socialist. It can be they came, even terrorism that is happening in England, for example. We all say, well, I'm not a Muslim, or I'm not British, or terrorism will not come. I remember before terrorism started in Nigeria and the Boko Haram started bombing Nigeria and bombing certain areas. I remember that as a younger lady, I used to hear people saying that there will never be terrorism in Nigeria. At worst, if anything is happening in England, I'm just going to pack my load and I'm going to my country, I'm going to Africa. Those kind of, they say it in jest, but that's really their heart. So they say things like that and think, oh, I'm just going to go to my country. No terrorist is going to come there. I'm not disturbing anybody. But what happened? Not long after, we started getting terrorism in Nigeria. And it's not even just that. Other things other than terrorism does happen in Nigeria, but we didn't see that. We just thought that, okay, it's not us that is doing it, and it's not affecting me. So that, the title yesterday, that don't make the same mistakes, I think that is a wake-up call for me, and it should be a wake-up call for everybody as well. A wake-up call of something that we've been conditioned to do all the time, that we do to keep the peace, to keep our peace, to just stay friends with some people. We don't want to rock the boat. Sometimes they call it rocking the boat. Let the sleeping dog lies. All these things, all these languages that they've used to kind of suppress you, that you have used and agreed with and accepted to suppress yourself. It's now time that you discard all those kind of words or belief system that have caused us to keep our mouth shut, to keep quiet when we should speak, or keep quiet because we want to enjoy that moment without thinking about the future. So what it says to me is, well, that, I have a little enjoyment or a little peace now to create war for myself later. And do I really want to create war for myself later? No, I don't. So yes, this self-deception, we need to stop. This is really about ourselves. It's not, I'm not even saying that it's about church or it's about religion anymore. It's about ourselves, and we need to start being honest with ourselves and stop keeping quiet just for the sake of the short-term peace that we think we're having, because truly we cannot have peace if it's not sustainable. It's not peace. And we know from a lot of examples, including this poem, that this peace that we think that we're having is not sustainable. When this guy and his clergymen and all the pastors, they went to Hitler, I'm sure that they knew in their mind, whatever reason or excuses or assurance that Hitler gave them at that point, they knew that it wasn't going to last. In their own heart, they knew. So they never had peace. So whatever maybe we need to start redefining what peace is, define what keeping quiet means to us. We should redefine it, and then when we define it, then we really come to the true core of what we really need to do, rather than just keeping quiet and thinking that we can get away with it. We can just move on and and get on with our lives, and everything will be okay. And the damages that are being done by us keeping quiet. So I think that's really just what I want to share. There are other people in here. I don't know if they want to share anything, though, Dr. Sunday. And Mrs. Sharonka would definitely like to share something. So she's here, so I can get on their side. Thank you.
Hello, everyone on the platform. Good to see you guys here again. Yes, I wanted to talk about what Pastor Sunday talked about yesterday, which was he's talking on the topic of the plague of silence, and the topic was, please don't repeat the mistakes of Martin Niemöller. And I believe he is a pastor, or was a pastor now, but when he was talking about him, the word that came to me was self-preservation. As human beings, for some reason or another, we have grown up to learn to be, preserving our life, just to survive, make it through, make it through each stage of our lives and come out of it just normal enough to be safe within ourselves. And in the process of doing that, sometimes what happens is that we just focus on what's going on around us. Even though we see lots of activities going on, we feel like, let's not rock the boat. We somehow have a belief that those things will be fixed by the people who are supposed to be fixing that. But I am just going to be living my life very safely. I am not going to go out there and, make any noise. I'm just going to be quiet, and I'm just going to just live and make sure that, I survive this world and I do okay. But what lessons I learned from this Pastor Martin was that not only do we do that, but if we become influential and powerful and we get deceived by people around us, that nothing can happen to us. You are in the right group of people. You have now reached the stage of the people who are, the upper tier, the most influential, the most powerful. So you are safe here. There's nothing that can happen in the surrounding. You are safe. We got your back. And so what I saw with Mr. Martin's life was that he noticed that Hitler was, he was a very strict and mean leader. Whatever he said and whatever he planned, he always did it. I mean, it was a ruthless government. And fear caught him. And so what he did now, not only did he, as the Nazis were encroaching on different societies and people, the Jews, so what Martin did was he had this false feeling that since those group of people were not him, he was okay. He was fine. There must be something about those other group of people, maybe somewhere down the line, that is really true. That's why Hitler is just interested in making their lives miserable, killing them, and getting rid of them. And so he kept on giving these excuses that, it's just over there. It's not near me. It doesn't concern me. But the extra step that he took is the one that really, really got to me. At one point now, he decided that the best thing he could do was to make a deal with Hitler. Just let Hitler know that, what, all that you're doing, I see it. But you know what? As long as I'm guaranteed that I and my family or his friends or whatever, himself, will be safe, nothing will happen to him, he felt it was okay. And of course, Hitler was like, yeah, nothing's going to happen to you. So he believed a lie. He believed a lie because he felt that he was different. Sometimes we believe a lie while we are practicing self-preservation. We just decide to believe the lie, that this thing will never come to us. So as we saw in his story yesterday, it finally did. You know, he finally ended up in the concentration camp. So what was the self-preservation about? Where he finally came to a conclusion and said, there's no one left to speak up. And he that should have spoken up against this injustice has found himself right in it and in the concentration camp. Well, thank God, God had mercy upon him, and he came out to tell the testimony. And that was really striking and a message to me. You know, it's not like we have wisdom on everything all at the same time. But when we decide to stand up for truth, allow Christ to reign in the situation, wisdom will come. But first, our heart is the one that is to go and think about the situation and be able to empathize, sympathize with what's going on as injustice on the earth. Because at the end of the day, self-preservation doesn't work. It's just a big lie. It's just a good feeling, but it's not the truth. One day these situations are going to come knocking on our door. And I do remember one of the things that I'm learning here is that we are created to be solutions to the world's situations, to injustice. We are the one that can stand for truth because we know the person who is truth, and that is Jesus Christ. And I think it's encouraging to know when the scripture says that it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by my spirit, says the Lord. A lot of times we think maybe we don't have enough power, we don't have enough strength, but we are not to worry because that's not even what it's going to be. It will be the Spirit of God that is in us that will help us not only to take a stand, but to find solutions for these issues. Because it is a lie. There's no such thing as self-preservation. Situations that are happening in the world, they're finally going to come knocking on our door. So it would be better as a body that we all arise together and confront these situations head on, knowing that God is with us. Pastor Sunday also taught this week about one man standing alone with God is a majority. We have God with us. So we stand up and he is with us. And so the fear, when we remember those kinds of scriptures, the fear just has to go. He also talked about us, authority is greater than power. We are in high authority. We are already reigning with Christ, with God in heaven. And we are already positioned in the greatest authority. We're already positioned in authority. And so we work from that authority. We may not appear powerful to the world, but guess what? We are hooked up to the one and only Almighty God. And so therefore, we can stand up as a body for justice, for righteousness, for humanity, and to be a solution to these issues. So I am so glad that I know about the story of Martin Niemöller, if I'm pronouncing it right. There's lots of lessons to learn from him. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, everyone. Hi, family. Thank you for joining us tonight again. I just want to share my thoughts about the silence, the plague of silence that we are listening to this week and last week. So I said already yesterday that what I personally found very striking is that there's this false assumption of security in the self-preservation piece of keeping silent when something has to be said and that we know has to be said. And, Mayo already mentioned it, that it is, for me, a lack of self-love if we keep being silent about things that we know are true and need to be spoken out about. And I think this is really a wake-up call for us to also do an inventory of ourselves, to really go be sincere to ourselves and ask ourselves, what are the values that we stand for as Christians? And is truth really one of it? And what does that mean if this is the case? Do we really stand for the truth when it comes to it, when we really are in that position where we have no other choice? Because, we all are somehow victims to the fact that we've been conditioned to think otherwise. And we have this great blessing of listening to Pastor Sunday and being enlightened about all these things that we thought were true. And I personally, I come from a corporate background that is very open-minded to everyone, and, everyone should love everyone should do what they want. And so there are these unwritten rules, you can say, that people have to comply to when it comes to homosexuality, for example. You should rather not speak out against it because you don't know about your job and you don't know if this is going to, affect your career or anything like that. And we've heard of numerous cases where people got fired or, expelled or whatever because they stood for the truth. But are we willing to pay that price? Because that's the price that we have to pay sometimes for standing for the truth. And just like Pastor says, it takes just one person. It takes one person alone on the side of the truth. And that's all we need because, we are on the side of the majority if we stand for the truth. And we have to really digest this message because I think it is so crucial that we have to take that message and ask ourselves, go through that message and ask ourselves, do we see ourselves doing those things? Do we see ourselves standing on the side of the truth when the truth is clear, is in front of us, and is requesting us to speak for it, to stand for it? So yeah, I just think that this is a wake-up call for us, like Mrs. Sharonka has said, and it is a requirement for us to make a self-inventory. Let us not just listen to these messages and ponder upon them somehow and think, enrich ourselves with that knowledge, because we don't have any excuse to not do anything. And it's not just in situations where you feel like, for now I haven't seen anything, so, I can sit down and wait until something happens. No, we all know that this world is not functioning the way it should function. And so we all have the duty and we have the responsibility to sit down, look around us, look into the environment that we are in, and ask ourselves, what is working, what is not working, what is wrong, and where can I bring a solution? Where can I speak the truth? Where can I bring the truth with the light that I have received? So that is my encouragement to every one of us, to myself, to, take this message, take the gift that we've been given and start using it. Start using it. So that's all. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So what I got from yesterday's message that really struck me was when you keep silent about something, it will eventually rule you. And I've seen that this is true in so many different levels, especially when it comes to the church. I think that the modern day church, at least in my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, but the modern day church, it seems to be obsessed with relevance, obsessed with giving the people what they want, obsessed with being popular amongst at least the religious people, or the people who are just seeking something. And I witnessed this in Los Angeles, especially. The funny thing about Los Angeles is that it's a very lonely place. People don't know that, but I think the biggest demon in Los Angeles is not alcohol or drugs or the movie industry or the entertainment industry. It's loneliness. It's despair. It's feeling like there's no one there. There's no community. And the solution for a lot of Christians was to join a church. And what I realized is that there are many churches that are so obsessed with being relevant in Los Angeles that they actually started to assume the culture of Los Angeles. They started to put more importance on the people who were higher in status within the entertainment industry. And they all wanted to look cool. They all wanted to be a part of their culture so badly that eventually the church actually began to resemble the same problems of the community. But they thought that they were good. They thought that they were safe because they were a church and they talked about Jesus. But when you stepped into the church or out of the church, it was like there was no difference. You were just as lonely inside the church as you were around Los Angeles. And so that really hit home with me, the fact that you are silent or that you do not take action when you see that there's a problem in your community or there's a problem in that society. Eventually that thing that you are not saying anything about will eventually rule you. And that's the same thing that happened in Pastor Nomeler's, I think that's how you say it, with him. He was silent 1, 2, 3 times, and eventually the very thing that took out all the people he was silent about took him out as well. I think this can be applied to so many areas of our lives. For instance, maybe you have a career or you're in a job and you see that the books are not being kept correctly, or you see that there's some problem where they're buying too much stock of this, and you just say, oh, well, it's not my job. Oh, well, that's not my area. Oh, I won't say anything about that. Maybe nothing will happen year 1. Maybe nothing will happen year 3. But just when you feel like you're comfortable and everything is fine, the company folds. And guess what? It was because of the thing that you never spoke up about. And there was reward in that. There was reward in speaking up, but because you were saying, well, it's not my job and I don't want to step on any toes and it's not my duty, it's not my area. You not only lost your reward, but you actually even lost what you had. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, to him who has, more will be given, and to him who lacks, even what he has will be taken away. So it's important that we start to cultivate these other areas of wealth that we have. And part of that wealth is our voice. Part of that wealth is our ability to speak up about things that we care about things that are true to the principles of God and his nature, and we know his nature because it's the fruit of the Spirit. So it's not foreign to us what we are to say. If you're having a problem saying something, it's because you don't want to. You haven't broken past this barrier, because it's very clear to all of us exactly what is good and what is not good, and what is right and what is wrong. These things are not difficult. God is not a God of confusion. It's very clear what we are to speak up on and what we are to promote, the kingdom of God. So it's not a matter of confusion. It's about, you are fighting with yourself. You're fighting with insecurity. You're fighting with fears. But all these things, if you do not break past them, they will eventually rule over you. Another thing that I find is that, in relationships, especially romantic relationships or marriages, that, sometimes people will see little things slip. Their relationship will, kind of fade, and they'll just let it. They'll just say, oh, well, I don't have time to talk about that. I don't have time to fix this. I don't have time to. But because you're not speaking up, when something hurts you, and then you don't say anything, and you wait for it to build up, you wait for it to happen a 10th time, and a 15th time, and a 20th time, until it becomes a huge problem and a huge barrier in your relationship, that's another form of silence. And the thing that you could have dealt with at a small level now is so big, it's now ruling your relationship. It's now dictating to you how close you can be to this person. That could be in marriages, that could be in friendships. Sometimes we see a friend who is getting mixed up in something and you know that's not good for them. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a bad habit, maybe, you know, maybe it could even be them just eating. Something's off. But you don't want to be the bearer. You don't want to be the person who's pointing fingers. You don't want to be the person to bring it up. You want to be the nice friend. You want to laugh. You want to, you know, but so you don't bring it up. You don't get there. Or maybe they even told you, don't talk to me about that. I don't want to talk about my relationship. So you just, you know, put it aside and you just watch that person unravel. You don't say anything. And eventually that thing that you didn't say anything about completely rules your friendship. It completely takes the friendship away, you know. And that happens also with our family members. Another place that this happens is in school. So anywhere from elementary school to college, you know, I can't tell you how discouraging it is, and I'm sure you know, to hear that a child isn't doing well in school simply because they don't want to ask questions, simply because they don't want to stay after school and get a tutor, simply because they don't want to simply say, I need more time to learn this, or simply say, teacher, can you help me? You know, that form of silence, it can come from many different places, but in school, I mean, it really is a detriment because some of these kids are really intelligent. They're very intelligent kids, but they just need things to be explained and they won't speak up. You know, so that might be something that you could tell your kids or your niece or your nephew, is that don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know this. I'm struggling with this. You know, that form of silence. Silence is something that it comes in so many different forms. Sometimes we can overlook it. And silence in school, I think, is the most detrimental because you could go throughout your entire life thinking that you're not intelligent, thinking that you're not, you know, that you're not capable. I know that for me, when I was in school, I was a, you know, if you can believe it, I was a straight D and F student until the 6th grade. Through the 6th grade. I was not doing well in school at all. My teachers wanted to put me in remedial classes, and I refused. I was getting D's and F. I couldn't join any clubs because I didn't have the grades. I think my GPA in middle school was like a 1.9, if any of you know what that means. It's like low, the lowest of the low. And it was horrible. A few events happened to me that completely changed me. And I went from a D and F student to an A and B student and eventually to a straight A student. And I was getting over the highest GPA, which is 4.0. I was getting 4.1 and such on, and so on. Now, I had no better ability before I was making those straight A's as after. There was nothing that happened. I didn't like grow extra brain cells. Nothing happened. Do you know the quintessential thing that I used to make that change was the fact that I started to speak up in class. I started to raise my hand. I started to ask the teacher questions. I started to say, I'm unclear about that. Could you explain that to me? I started to ask my peers. I started to use I just started to be honest about what was going on inside of me. I started to stand up for myself. And that kind of process of learning to speak up when I didn't know, or when something was unclear, or when something was foggy, or when something wasn't explained properly, that ability to speak up actually helped me throughout many different areas of my life. Even now, even me speaking to you now, you know, part of the reason why I can come alive, you know, to you guys here is because I spent so much time cultivating that gift of speaking out. And it actually helped me a lot, especially when I got to high school and we started to have debates in English class. You know, when you have debates in English class, you know, it can get really nerve-wracking when you're the only person defending something. And it got to the point where I was so good at debating out loud that I would actually bring people from a majority stance to now over to my side. So this ability to speak out, when you cultivate it, it will reward you. It will reward you in many different areas of your life. And the other part of it is your finances. And this is my last one because Pastor's here. But in your finances, I heard a horrible story of a man who actually was silent about his financial struggles to his wife. He was doing very well and had a great business, and he was just taking care of the kids and the family, and everybody trusted him. And he was silent about these troubles that he was going through until someone came to come and take the house. And it just scattered the family. It just broke everybody in that family. And had he just stood up and said, hey, this thing happened with the business and we're having financial troubles. I need all of you to be, here with me as we try through this. Instead, he was playing charades. He was trying to keep up appearances. He was trying to keep everything cool. He was trying to be silent. And eventually that silence ruled over his finances, ruled over his family, his marriage, his relationship with his kids. That silence actually took over him like a plague, like a darkness, like Pastor was talking about, enveloped everything in his life. And it only took one admission, just one verbal admission to his wife, to his children, and it could have saved everything. So those are the 5 areas that I think that there are many, many areas of your life that silence can kill. But these are just 5 in different scenarios that you can kind of see how, if you get that unction in yourself that says, speak up then, because it will be so much worse later. So, Pastor is here.
Okay, thank you so much, every one of you that stood in for me when I couldn't stand in for myself. Thank you so very much. Well, here we come. So I see that some people probably have lost the hope that I was going to come today, but he that endures to the end shall be saved. So here we are. Sorry that I had to stay. I don't know what they told you was the reason why I couldn't appear, but I was busy on a conference call, international conference call, so I couldn't come on to be with you. Sorry for that, everyone. I hope you have shared the link. Let's go ahead and share the message. Let's go ahead and share the link. Okay. The topic of today is, I think we call it lessons from, lessons? What do I call the message today? Don't ever forget about, Don't ever forget about Dietrich or Dietrich? Huh? Dietrich. Don't ever forget Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Don't ever forget Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, I'm going to be pronouncing it the way it works out, okay? But I'm not a German, but it's another German. Yesterday I spoke to you people about one German, Martin Niemöller. No, that German that I spoke to you about yesterday is a great example. They came for me. But this other one is actually a more celebrated German. This other person is a very well celebrated, actually more famous German than Martin Niemöller. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer is a unique man. You will not believe his story. You will not believe his story. I know I've lost a lot of time, but I will try to cover good ground. But actually, one of the things that I will probably do is to do a whole series on him. I think I'm going to do a whole series. He deserves it. By the time I finish, you will discover that he deserves it. So some of you have never heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, but I'm sure you've seen the name. We have written the name in the promotional material about this and on the topic. But his story is this. This man had moved over to the U.S., like many of us have moved over from our countries, and we are right now in whatever country you are living, as economic refugees, basically, just to make a living, to make a career for yourself. And even though Dietrich was a Christian and was a pastor, was a gospel minister, was a theologian actually, it was so good that in New York he became he became the leader of, he became one of the leaders of the Union Theological Seminary in New York, one of the biggest seminaries in those days, in his days. But then this was, you know, but when he was such a man of principle that I would like you people to, can you come here, ID? So ID is like one of us. Let's say ID represents me or represents you. If the things have been good in my country, I won't have come over here probably to study. Maybe I would have stayed back in my country and I would not have become a refugee or an immigrant. And some of you are watching this program today. Maybe you would not have become an immigrant if things have been great in your own country. If things have been as good in our country, like in Europe, maybe you wouldn't have been here. So the same thing with Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a minister of God. But he really needed to grow. He wanted to grow. He wanted to achieve his dream. So he traveled from Germany to New York, and he finished the Bible school. He rose in power. He grew very fast, and it was not just a Bible school. He became very successful, and he had a very good position in the theological school. So he was doing well. He was just settling down when things became really bad in his own country. Now, let me tell you another thing that is even more sad and touching about him and what makes him into a hero. Let's say right now, ID, you are here in Ukraine. Let's say you are doing well. You have become a millionaire, or maybe not a millionaire, but a pastor or a businessman or someone that is doing well. And now you hear that Nigeria has a big problem. Nigeria is going through a hard time, going through maybe economic crisis, maybe Biafra crisis, you know, a lot of bad things happening in Nigeria. And Nigeria is about to divide, just like it is about to divide right now. And you are doing well in New York, in America, or in Europe. Dietrich did what few of us can do. So that's why this man is highly celebrated, not just by Germans. He's celebrated by theologians all over the world. He's celebrated by Christians all over the world. He's celebrated by Protestants all over the world. But let me tell you more. This man is highly respected. You will not believe it, but who respects him the most? By politicians and by activists. But let me tell you who are the activists and politicians that respect him most. Even though he's a pastor, it is not even the conservatives that respect him the most. Even though the conservatives also respect him. He's respected by conservative politicians, by conservative activists. He's highly respected. But let me tell you who respects him most. He's respected most by the Democrat, the left, the socialist, the communist, the left politicians, and the left activists. They respect him so much. In fact, all of them use him as their reference point.